Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 43 of the Bucs UK podcast. I'm your host for this one. My name is Alex. I'm joined by Tim and Kieron. And as you see, Kieron's on the other side of the fence for this one. He's handed over the hosting duties to me. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into the episode and we're going to have a look back at the Dallas game. Week one is in the books, and the Buccaneers came away with a victory, a hard-fought and a close-fought victory, but it does make them 1-0 going into week two. So, Tim, I'm going to come to you first. Just give us your initial thoughts on the game.
Well, the first thing was not the game, but the great to see the stadium full, to have fans back in to watch the Super Bowl champions kick off the season on Thursday night. Who would have said that 2 years ago? But it was a great game to watch. Closer than the experts thought. I thought Dallas, especially on offense, really gave us a lot of what we could handle. But when you got the GOAT and 1.5 minutes to go, you always knew that we would somehow get that win out. But a fantastic game and a great way to start the season.
Kieron, how did you see it?
I agree. I mean, it's week one, first of all. So, as we called one of our episodes last season, Don't Panic, Mr. Mannering. I think the same applies whether you win, lose, or draw in week one. But it was nice to get the win. I think it showed resilience. Sometimes we say, winning ugly is better, but, I don't think it was ugly. I think Dallas is, as Tim said, is a much better team, perhaps, than everyone gave them credit for.
Definitely, I agree with those points there, gentlemen. So let's go and look at the offense to begin with. Kieron, I'll start with you on this one. This is an argument or a topic that has been brought up over and over, and there's no point in us putting it to bed. We might as well carry on talking about it. Tom Brady, not missed a step, has he?
No, he looked agile. He looked supple, as a phrase I've not used to describe a male person for some time. But yeah, he was mobile, and he was doing everything that was needed to do. And I think he was in his head. He was in his own head. He was calm. There was none of this, what down is it nonsense. And I think that sets the tone for the rest of the offense.
Tim, one thing I just want to bring up offensively, I mean, obviously there's plenty to talk about, but one thing I did notice was in terms of the running backs. Now, Rojo, of course, had a drop, and he was then benched by BA. Fournette then has a drop, maybe a next play, if not a few plays later, and he isn't. What was your take on that?
My take basically is, listening to Bruce Arians, he said he wasn't right mentally after that drop. It seemed to really affect him. So he took the experience head and kept it there with Fournette. Our depth stops at those two at this moment, to be honest. So you cannot bench both of them. Fournette is the much better back to me and would and did a good job. But the one thing I would say is we lack balance. We didn't rush that ball. I think it was 14 times, in the game, and we threw it 40 odd. We're not going to win every game. I predicted 15-2. We won't do that with that balance. And towards the end of the Super Bowl run, one of our strengths was that offensive line and our Russian attack. Not quite sure why he switched away from that quickly, because Dallas's defense is certainly the weaker part of their game and will probably keep them out of the playoffs.
Well, Tim, I think the reason we switched away from it is the run wasn't working. There were a couple of 4 yards here and 6 yards there, but we're just running into a brick wall, and we've got no desire to run off tackle or outside. We've got no desire to pitch the ball, or God dare I say, even run an option play or something. It's up the gut every time, and it's I don't think it's what our O-line are best at. I think our O-line are brilliant pass protecting, but asking them to open holes in a power blocking scheme doesn't seem to be them, and we don't seem to be running sweeps and zones and any of the other clever stuff that we can do to try and counter that.
But we've never been a sweep or a wide running team. It has always been inside the tackles, and I agree with you. It's a frustration. The worst thing you can see is a running back running up the backside of the offensive lineman in front, going nowhere and down. Look at the touchdown in the Super Bowl. Fournette, where did he score it from? Wide with a pulling guard. But we just seem reluctant to do it. I agree.
But one thing that we can say worked exceptionally well, gentlemen, is the passing game. Tom Brady, we've mentioned him already, absolutely superb. AB and Godwin over 100 yards each. Gronkowski, 2 touchdowns. I think got about 90 yards. Our passing offense is as scary as ever, right, Kieron?
I think it was. And actually, while we're talking about the running backs, that's a good segue in, because obviously this was our first chance to see Gio Bernard playing, and actually on the couple of times he got in there, it seemed to be that's got something that I think is worth polishing and sticking with as a third down back. I think he brings us something that certainly Ronald Jones, it's kind of a bit stone hands, and Leonard Fournette proved with that screen pass that became an interception. He's not necessarily the best receiver. So I think that starts at the back, and I remember BA was asked in one of the pressers why we didn't use the backs more, or did that influence with our passing attack? And BA in typical risk no risk it no biscuit style said, we just push the ball down. We've got those guys. Why would we throw to these guys? But it's all about the defense want to compress the field and keep everything in front of them, and the offense should want to stretch the field. And as well as stretching it downfield, you can stretch it into the backfield as well. And I think if you have to follow a running back out of the backfield, I think that opens up the passing game. That would certainly help Gronk and Cam and OJ. Goodness help, we need to give OJ some help. Getting open a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. You move it back outside. The linebacker's got to follow out, guaranteed to leave a spot over the middle. That's where Gronk, Brait, maybe OJ Howard, if he's got anything left in him. I'm not quite sure at the moment what the Bucs are going to do with him. But we got so many options. I was particularly impressed with Antonio Brown. I thought he was outstanding. And are we getting the best out of Antonio Brown once again that the Steelers had a few seasons ago? Could well be. But when you can get open, because you've got Evans and Godwin, vice versa. It's a phenomenal attack. So you're probably right. Why would we run the ball so much? But you're not going to get through the season and win every game, throwing 50 times a game. You won't.
And that's a good point there, Tim. The balance is so important, and the best offense do have that balance. So you raise a very, very good point there. You mentioned AB there, Tim. As you say, I think I agree with you. I think he is looking like the AB at Pittsburgh. He was fantastic on Sunday. Now, of course, on Thursday. Apologies. Now, of course, Mike Evans. We didn't see much of him in the game. I think he might have been double coverage quite frequently there. But that is something that is happening with Mike Evans fairly often. But that's nothing we need to worry about, I assume, Tim, because we've mentioned them already, but we've got these amazing other wide receivers and tight ends who can help in the passing game.
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about at all. He's a typical team player. Five receivers. If I'm number 5 this week, I'll be number 1 next week. I won't bitch and moan about it in the week beforehand. And the one thing probably everybody says about, he's going to go for 1,000 yards. I don't think that really worries him now. He's got what he really wants, which is the Super Bowl ring. He's got the record already. That'll still be very difficult to beat. If he gets it, he gets it. But I don't think it's going to be the be-all and end-all for him.
I think that's a really good point. And I think while we're talking about the receivers, the other one that we need to mention is Chris Godwin. So last year, towards the middle to the back end of the season, Godwin had a bit of the case of the dropsies, didn't he? And he had a big drop in the game against the Cowboys, and that would have really helped turn things around. But it seemed like, it was quite late in the game, so there wasn't a lot of time to tell, but it seemed like he snapped out of that straight away. So I think what we've also got is a much more resilient set of players now as well.
Yeah. And we did it, you didn't even see Tyler Johnson, or you saw him on the field once. Scotty Miller, you didn't see him on the field at all. So there's even more in reserve to come, and they can't cover everybody.
It's a scary, scary offense, and it's one that I love watching at the minute. And just going back very quickly to Mike Evans, I think it's very easy to say that he is Canton bound as well. This guy is going to be a Hall of Famer, and he thoroughly deserves it. And what a team player as well. Let's now switch sides of the ball, if we can, gentlemen. Let's have a look at the defense now. Kieron, were you surprised by what happened to our defense on Thursday?
I'll be honest. I am a little bit worried that the Cowboys might have exposed a bit of a blueprint for how to beat the Bucs. We all know that the front seven is immense, and that the back 4 or 5 in the secondary, aren't they're not a weakness, but they aren't as strong as that front seven. And I think that plus a couple of injuries, and again, I think Bruce said this in the president, we got thin really quickly. And I think without that pressure up front, it put them a little bit more on an island and exposed them a bit more. So again, I'm not panicking. It's week 1. The Bucs are bringing in free agents to work and to make sure we try and got a bit more depth there. And I think they were fine, but the fact they were really working SMB. And obviously he obviously was unwell. They were working Jamil Dean. They kind of thought deep and wide was where they were gonna have some success with us. I guess the only thing is that we know already the Cowboys are better than we thought they were. So I'm just hopeful that other teams won't be able to execute that nearly as well.
I think a key thing to remember about this Cowboys offense as well is that prior to Dak going down, I think Dak was leading the passing yards last season. So this Cowboys offense is not a bad offense at all. Tim, even though passing wise our defense struggled against the pass, against the run, still as good as ever. Zeke was quiet.
Yeah, Zeke was quiet. I think the one player I will pick out certainly of the front seven was Vita Vea. Absolutely immense inside, power, pushing centers back into Dak's face. But you've got to look at Dak Prescott as well. He's one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this league. Pairing with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, they are going to give people problems all through the field. So I agree with Kieron. We looked a bit weak, maybe a bit loose on the back end, but this was a really, really good offense. And a lot of teams will struggle to compete with that. But again, we took, one of the offensive players of the year out in Zeke Elliott very early on. And they again had nothing. We just didn't quite get the Dak Prescott as quickly as we were in the 8-game run last year. We were all over every quarterback we faced. Even Taylor Heineke was being moved out the pocket. We were there, but we weren't quite at the game speed, or certainly up to the quarterback as good as we have been over the past 8 games.
But it wasn't Bucs of old, in the sense that it wasn't that annoying thing where they were throwing to receivers that were inexplicably wide open. Every throw was contested. Every time there was a defender nearby. So I'm kind of okay with that. It's a little bit bend but don't break, but maybe not by design.
Yeah, it was. Jamel Dean got picked on early, but he got up to game speed, I think is how I would word it, after a couple of series, and he started to play better. Carlton Davis came out of it brilliantly because they won't throw the ball his way. So as long as we can hold Jamel Dean and rotate a safety over, we'll be okay. We've got 6-7 weeks now without Murphy Bunting, so he's got to step up.
I was going to mention Sean Murphy Bunting next, actually. I know Kieron had touched on him already. I'll just throw this over to you both, gents. So whoever wants to, if you both want to chime in, please do. How do you see our secondary without Sean Murphy Bunting going forward for the time being? Because he's an integral part of that secondary.
For me, it will leave Carlton Davis pretty much as an island for the next 6-7 games, because all the safety help will rotate over to Dean's side. You might even see people like White and David dropping back more into coverage, which could, dent a bit of our flexibility up front of where we may rush from. But we'll be okay. Fair play to Andrew Adams coming off the bench, did a real nice job. We signed the boy Desir now, was an experienced player to the practice squad. So they're looking for that experience just for the next 6-7 weeks.
Another player that we need to mention, of course, made his in-season debut on Thursday, is Joe Tryon, although he goes by his double-barreled name, which I'll be honest, I'm sorry, I can't remember, Joe. If you're watching, I'm sorry, I can't remember.
JTS.
JTS, that's it. We'll go JTS. I like that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like if you watch the Goldbergs, instead of JTP, it's JTS.
That'll make it easier. Kieran, I'll come to you first on this one. What did you make of Joe Tryon? He was rotating in and out with Shaq Barrett, so he didn't have a huge amount of snaps, but he did see some game time.
I think he got more game time than perhaps I expected him to get, because it's one of those things where typically a rookie or drafted player goes in and it's about adjusting to the game speed. So, you don't tend to have high hopes. And so rotating him in is about breaking him gently, and you try and do it on non-critical downs. And it's good for giving, Shaq and JPP and others, a spell. I thought he did well. But and that's a testament probably to our expectations, because anyone else you'd probably say was solid and did the job, and but I think we're probably all expecting quarterbacks on crutches. So I think he did well.
Absolutely, I think we've got a lot to see from him. Sorry, Tim, I see you want to come in there.
Any snap he can get in meaningful play can only be an advantage for him. He looked good in practice. He's looked good in pre-season. Now we'll see how he steps up. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. Speed off the edge he could be the making of him. But I think this position, he will drop more back into outside linebacker as we go.
He's certainly learning from the best as well. JPP and Shaq, he's got two great mentors there, but he's really going to have to step up his game if he's going to replace either of those two as starters for the time being. We know that the position is theirs.
It's a learning curve for him this year. Don't expect anything, a learning curve.
Absolutely. I think obviously the key thing to remember as well is that the fact we did re-sign all 22 starters. So any rookie that was coming in, they're not going to be starting. They are going to be learning from these guys. But what a unique position for the Bucs to be in, and a great position for the Bucs to be in. Let's enjoy it while we have it, I'd say. So let's move on to the final side of the ball, and that is, of course, special teams. Now, there's only one gentleman that I can come to for special teams. So, Tim, I apologise, but if you want to say anything, please come in short. Please come in.
Happy to hand over.
But we've got to go to our own special team guru, critic. I don't know, whatever.
Mona.
So come on, Kieran. Let's
I'll
have
say
it.
the
Special
bad,
teams.
and then Tim can come in with the good. The coverage on punts was terrible. The outside gunners, their job is to not be blocked, get downfield, and make that tackle and break down. They were sometimes slow getting downfield. When they did get downfield quickly, they didn't break down, and so the punt returner was just juking and had space, and then then taking it to the second level. There you go. That was the only bad thing about special teams. Tim, say all the good things.
Two players, Bradley Pinion, Ryan Suckup. Bradley Pinion especially. Everybody will talk about Suckups, final game-winning kick, and why not? Pressure, that's what he's there for, and does it well. Bradley Pinion, I had a quick look earlier because I did have time to do some homework. First punt, 65 to the 2, 42 to the 8, 49 to the 13. What more do you want off your punter? All in the corner, especially the first punt, 65 to the 2, right in the corner. You can't do it any better than that. Kickoffs, didn't see them returning any kickoffs again. I know that's an NFL thing. So I'm really pleased with those two. I will put a quick shout out to Jaden Mickens on his return game. The guy was lucky to make the team. And in fairness, he's come back in now. And his return game was excellent. I expected, when I watched it Friday night, I expected to see Darden back there. And to see Mickens, tremendous, can't fault the boy, excellent effort. Special teams, probably the best part of our game.
And that's overall a really good point to pick that up, actually. And Mickens, I've probably been hard on him for last year, but he seemed to have matured. Again, it's only one game. It's not a good sample, but he had some explosion, and he didn't do the thing where he just got the ball and started running.
Yeah.
Yes, you need speed, but you also need vision. You need to follow your blockers. You need to know where the holes are. The punt return where he had the success, he actually took his time. And it wasn't about just sprinting into a wall and falling over after 8 yards. So I agree.
Yeah.
That was it's probably the most surprising move on the whole roster.
Yeah, absolutely,
and a good one.
Yeah, it was refreshing to see a punt returner going to the edge as opposed to, as you say, Kieran, as opposed to just going up the middle. I mean, metaphorically speaking, you could say he's had a a bit of a fire lit up his backside with Darden. No, who's it coming
With
up now?
Darden, yeah.
Darden, yes, thank you. With Darden being signed there, because we know how quick Darden is. He's shown that already, and I believe there was discussions that he was going to be the returner. So maybe that's just up Mickens' game. And for those Bucs fans who haven't heard, Jaden Mickens has now been re-signed to the active roster. So he thoroughly deserves that based on the performance that we saw on Thursday as well. So really good performance from special teams there. So you've heard what we've had to say on the game. Time to hear from some of our members now. So we'll start with Andy Hardwood. I'm sure it would have been a great watch for a neutral last night, Thursday night, of course. But oh my word, that was tough to watch for us, wasn't it? I think there was a few hearts going quite quickly throughout that game. Tim, Kieron, how were your heart rates by the end of it?
It was tight, but we knew when the GOAT got the ball with 1:20 to go, game was over.
I was less worried than I probably was in a lot of games last season.
And you're both still with us in our lives, so your heart rates can't have been that bad. So I'll take that as a positive.
Yeah.
Stuart Hill, we definitely would have lost that game 2 years ago. Brilliant finish, but probably shouldn't have won it anyway. Too many turnovers and penalties. We didn't discuss that actually. It's quite nice that we didn't really discuss any negatives, but the turnovers were that's a huge thing, because I agree with what Stuart said there. 2 years ago, we're losing that with the amount of turnovers that we gave away.
Minus three turnover differential, losing the time of possession and penalties. Not normally a recipe for winning a game, is it?
Yeah,
definitely not. No, maybe that's the Brady effect that we're having. Let's enjoy it. And Stuart, simple. A win is a win.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Damn right it is. And
1-0 is always a great start.
It feels blinking good as well. So absolutely, Stuart. Before we continue, we must, as always, say a big thank you to Bucs Report for helping to promote our podcast. We really do appreciate it. If you want to check those guys out, their links are in the description below. You'll also find our social media links. Please go and click on them. Give us a like, give us a follow. We are a loving bunch, I promise. And while you're down there as well, make sure you smash subscribe, click that like button, and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time we upload. And of course, to our members, we want to say a huge thank yous. Some news just to give you as well. We can say that we have now over 500 members, which is just fantastic. So to you all, thank you ever so much. It's so great to be connecting with so many Buccaneer fans. So and please keep coming on the forum, keep interacting with us on social media. Make sure you turn up at all the events we're going to be arranging. We can't wait to meet as many of you as we can. The Bucs are 1-0, so now it's time to look ahead to week 2, and the Buccaneers are back at the Ray J, and it's time to welcome the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, so Tim, Atlanta are coming to town.
Yeah,
they're coming to town. What's your keys to the game or keys up to you? Don't mind whichever one you prefer there. And which player do you think we need to keep an eye on the game on Sunday?
The key to the game is not so much us. It's the Falcons. We need to shut down really one player from the Falcons in Calvin Ridley. Once we shut that down, I went back and looked at the Falcons game. They were actually fairly poor, to be very polite about it. They weren't very good against the Eagles. There was no pressure from either side. I don't think we got much to fear from the Falcons, as long as we can take Calvin Ridley out of the game. That is my key part to it. The Bucs really have got to play efficient, professional football, which no doubt with Brady, he won't let anything else occur. And it should be a reasonably comfortable performance. The key for me is to see how the running game goes. Ronald Jones has been named back as a starter today, ready for Sunday. Let's see how mentally ready he is to take on that role. This could be a defining couple of weeks for him in his Bucs career.
And is there any particular player you think we need to keep an eye on as well in the game there, Tim?
And I'm just keeping an eye on Ronald Jones particularly. That is my player for the Bucs to watch all day to see how he handles the game.
Super, I like that. Kieron, what about you? What's your key to the game and player to watch?
I also went back and I watched the whole 40-minute game in 40 minutes, and I just don't know what to make of the Falcons. There was so much preseason hype about how good they were going to be, and then there was so much write-up after the game about how they got destroyed. And I don't think either is the truth. I don't think that they are as good as they're hyped to be. So I agree with Tim. But I also don't think they were absolutely. I think a lot of the score at the end of the game was kind of just situational football and needing to try and claw it back and it getting away from them a little bit. So I think the game was closer than the score probably dictates. And Tim said it absolutely right. Calvin Ridley shone for them as the player that was a difference maker. But I think for me, on their offensive side of the ball, the running back Mike Davis, I think he is going to be the key. A bit like Tim saying for Rojo for us. I think he's going to set the tone. He's going to be the one that if he performs, it's going to give Matt Ryan the time that he needed, because he certainly did need time. He wasn't getting a lot of protection. He wasn't getting a lot of time. I think if they can get their running game going, which is a big ask because it's the Bucs' defensive strength, isn't it? The best running D in the league by in pretty much every category. So I think the key to the game, I think, is to stop them running, which sounds a bit odd, when you talk about Calvin Ridley, but I think everything will flow from that. We stop the run, then we get pressure, then we can pin our ears back, and then they become one-dimensional, and it's going to get ugly. I really hope that can be the case. On the defensive side of the ball, I think Tim's absolutely right. We need to establish our running game and a bit more of a genuine commitment to it. It's not balance for balance's sake, but it is about making sure that the defensive linemen have to look up. The linebackers have to read, and everything just as a split second. The difference between throwing the ball in 2.5 seconds and 3.5 seconds is so little in the NFL, but it means about a 30 yards difference on the field. So if we're going to get those sorts of big plays to Antonio Brown, there's got to be a genuine threat of the run. And so for me, actually, I think it's the linebacker core for the Falcons, and they're pretty good. I mean, Dante Fowler and Deion Jones are the two that sort of strike me as probably the most talented ones there. But I think that's the key. So it's going to be sort of not in the trenches, but in the sort of the next tier back.
Yeah, I think you make some great points there, Kieron. In terms of my key to the game, I think it sort of links into what you're saying there, Kieron, particularly about Matt Ryan and the time or lack of time he had in their game over the weekend. I think my key to the game is us getting to Matt Ryan. We know that he can throw the ball. We need to stop him doing that because he'll know that our secondary is certainly our weaker area of our defense. I think they'll struggle to get the run going just with how good we are against the run, but our secondary can leave themselves open. So my key to the game is getting to Matt Ryan as quickly as we can. And that links into my player or players, shall I say, to watch, and that will be our front seven. They're going to be integral in getting to Matt Ryan to stop him passing that ball. I think if he can pass the ball, we could be in danger because he has got the ability to make those throws. So those are my keys and my players to watch there. So let's quickly get some score predictions, please, gentlemen. Kieron, what's your score prediction?
35-7 to the Bucs. I think it's again that scoreline will do us justice because I think the game will get away from them towards the end. The 7 is probably a long bomb to Ridley where a defender falls down or something like that, a sort of broken play. And I can see them. We won't shut them out, and that doesn't really happen in the NFL these days. But I think a comfortable victory. And again, it would be great to hear a full, loud Ray J bowling over an opponent. It's like, happy times.
And Tim, what about your score prediction?
Well, I'm going to be actually slightly bolder than Kieron here because the Falcons will score. They'll score field goals, certainly. They've got a great kicker. So they will get about 13, but the Bucs are going to get 41. 41-13 Bucs.
Nice. Oh, I like that one. I'm a little bit more pessimistic, I'm afraid, gentlemen. Someone's got to bring it back down to earth. I think the Falcons will score a couple of touchdowns because I worry about our secondary. And I know that if Matt Ryan does manage to find the time, and again, you mentioned Calvin Ridley, he is going to be a threat. So I think they're going to get a couple of touchdowns. I still think we're going to win, but I'm going 27-14 to the Bucs. So that's what I think is going to happen.
And that's okay.
It is, but I'd rather it was one of your two scores than mine.
But think about the waves of the season. We've had the first game, which is a wake-up call. We need to get things right. We've got our weaknesses. The second game is about execution, and then we're on to the Rams, the Patriots. That's the point at which we need to be purring. So
it can be a very good point there, Kieron. But I still prefer if it's one of your two scores rather than mine. So just before we finish off, Kieron, I'd like to hand over to you quickly because our forum was alive during the game on Thursday, wasn't it?
It was. And again, so this for any American friends watching, obviously the game kicked off at 1:20 in the morning, Friday morning for us, and didn't finish till, well, it's gone past 4 o'clock. We had our 5th largest forum thread ever. The discussion on the forum was endless and non-stop as the game vacillated. So we were the best team in the league and the worst team in the league, and we were going to win and we were going to lose. So it's just really good fun to follow the game with our other members. So if you are on the forum, do come on during game time, and it'd be lovely to see people.
Definitely. Thank you, Kieron. Yeah, I'll just back what you said there. It is a great place for our members to chat during games. So please do come along during the games if you want to chat with our Bucs UK members. And we call it group therapy sometimes because it is certainly needed. So if you want to find most of us, that's where we'll be during game time. So all that's left for me to do now is to say thank you to Tim and Kieron for joining me for this one. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And thank you, all of you, for watching or listening. Enjoy the game on Sunday. And go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.